In a perfect world, we would own a nice piece of land. We would have a nice big barn where the females could all run around and play with each other. We would have a building with office facilities for Jackie, who is my vet coordinator, for Ange, who's my volunteer and outreach coordinator. But everything boils down to money, which is the one thing we struggle with. But we don't give up. Everybody keeps playing the lottery, and hopefully we'll win somewhere. If we could get a big enough piece of land, though, and get everything else donated to build it, the sanctuary could have a whole portion that was a real sanctuary. Guinea pigs that didn't have to be fostered out or adopted out, because they'd have space to live bigger than what they have now. Volunteers come in all shapes and sizes. My youngest volunteer is 3 years old. She comes in with a little bag of carrots, and all of those carrots will end up in 2 cages. So after she leaves, we pull all the carrots out and spread them out. My oldest volunteer is 94. She can't walk very well, so she comes in with a wheelchair. And again, she'll feed all of her carrots to 2 cages. But we pull them out when they leave, and we spread them out. It's not about what they're doing or how they're doing it. It's more about just letting them be comfortable and do what they want to do. If you want to hold a guinea pig, you can hold a guinea pig. If you want to feed somebody, you can feed somebody. Everybody who walks through that door is a volunteer. It doesn't matter what they're here for. And they're all learning very quickly, especially our new village members. They walk in and they'll be like, hey, can you go grab a water bottle? And they're like, what? They're like, you belong to the village now. You're a volunteer. And it's always a kind of shock, but then it's like, wait, I can help. And when we get the villagers and volunteers that are like from the programs through the schools, like the community service programs, or kids that get in trouble, and I tell them, I don't care what they did, don't do it again. But they come in and they volunteer, and a lot of times when kids are done with their community service hours, they still continue to come back to help, because this is such a welcoming place, and they can do things without real rules. The only thing you can't do here is you cannot hurt a guinea pig, you cannot hurt a person, and there's no judgment once you walk past that door. If you have judgment, I will ask you to leave. And it's very rare that we do that, but this is just, it's a safe place for everybody. It has to feel like you're home. If you walk in and you want something to drink, you go to the refrigerator. There's usually water in there. If you need to use the bathroom, we have an all-inclusive bathroom for whatever. It could be families, it could be anybody. If you really don't have any hay and pellets and you really need some help, you just come in. I give it to you and you just say, Kim, I'll catch you later. And I know at some point everybody will settle up. The village runs on trust, and the volunteers are run with trust. We trust everybody when they walk in, if they're here to volunteer, and we just let them do their own thing. Because of the amount of abuse and loss in my personal life, just as a child and growing up, I tend to be more sensitive for animals that come in and that have been abused or starved or just neglected in some way, shape, or form. One of the hardest ones we had came in 2020, and he had been thrown against a wall, and we had to put him down a couple months ago. We got him through 3 years, and I had always told Squeaks, I said, when you pass, I'm going to do your x-ray, because I want to know how hard I have to pray for the people that did this to you. And I know that may sound silly, but my grandmother always said, you pray hardest for the people that you don't want to pray for. And that's what we do. When we did Squeak's x-ray, after we had crossed him over, his knees were entirely shattered. And he was in a lot of pain, but he hid it a lot of the time. Crossing him was extremely hard. And there's 2, I don't want to say lessons, but there's 2 things I really try to get people to understand. One, the body is a host for the soul. Once the body and the soul, once that's crossed over, that soul is no longer part of that body. That soul releases, in our belief, because we believe in everything, releases back into the world. So we run Garden of Lives. And that means that when we plant them, we say wrap your potato like a burrito, because I don't like the thought of dirt on his face or anything. And then we buy like a tree. So we have crabapple tree, a cherry tree. My whole backyard looks like the Garden of Eden at this point, because we always plant them so that the aura can come back up through it. The second lesson that we try to teach people is never let human emotion override the quality of life. It doesn't matter how sad you are or how hurt you are that they need to be crossed over. Not just guinea pigs, many animals will not cross if they know their family's upset. And that's why a lot of times people will come in with somebody who's right on that edge, and within a few minutes of being here, they'll go, because I let them know that it's okay to go, and they just don't want to hurt their families. So we get lots of that. If you look through anything on our Facebook albums, the Salem 12, they came in with no moms, no water, on wooden bedding, no vegetables, dehydrated, and ultimately we lost 3 of them. Brewster had to be crossed over, and Punky passed away, and it was just a mess. And then when we got the Pelham 20, this was 20 guinea pigs living in a chicken coop being fed birdseed, turnips, and bread. There was nothing in there guinea pigable, if you will. Out of those 20, they've had 27 babies. We've lost some of the moms, we've lost some of the babies. And watching a baby be born, only to know it's dying, is hard, because Bo Peep Rose had 2 girls, Sunbeam and Moonbeam. Moonbeam didn't make it. And when Jackie and I looked at her before we wrapped her up, she had no spine. And that was based on the fact that she was so abused, and her dietary needs weren't being met for the mother to be able to provide this for her children. And there's just cases like that where the village spends a fortune covering these vet bills, but we can't always save them. But it's not because we don't try. So my burden is I bear crosses that aren't mine to bear. I will take on any problem, no matter what kind of pet, no matter what kind of family. If I think that there's a remote chance I can help them, I'll put that on my plate. But it's kind of like the cat in the hat, where they make the tower of everything, and that's where I'm at a lot of days. Some days I just can't cry anymore. Some days I can't stop crying. It's just because of the way these guys are treated.